Welcome to the cEDH sermon, where two failed musicians who can't talk no good talk about competitive Commander. So, Trevor, how are you today?
I'm good, It's always a pleasure recording with you, Ian. So
Likewise.
I have no idea what we're doing today. So this is exciting.
Yes, so if we get this bullshit off screen, I pulled just these two cards up because this is going to be the first thing we do. But so today what we're going to do is we're going to compare various cards in sort of a head-to-head matchup, but across four different game states. So you could take it as, which one's better overall or more often throughout the game, but it's really more about being situationally aware of how the viability of certain cards can change based on the game state. So these are going to be the four game states, essentially. We're going to rank the cards or say which one's better, essentially, during the setup turn. So turn 1 through 2, while you are ahead in turns 3 or 4, while you are behind turns 3 or 4, and then in a stalled longer game state, maybe turn 5, 6, or longer. So basically, in each of those four scenarios, which of the cards is better? So this should actually be pretty fun. I've got about, 12 or 13 different head-to-head matchups that I tried to pick where it would be difficult. There might be some obvious ones. I didn't want to overthink it and have all my answers. I wanted to, kind of come to it naturally along with you, since this is totally, you have no idea that we were doing this today. So we're going to get into that. You go ahead and read off the usual introductory stuff, and I'm going to pull something up real quick while you're doing that.
All right. Well, Ian, we are on social media, so we are on the Twitters, we're on the Blue Skies, we are on TikTok and Instagram. You can also support us directly on Patreon if you'd like. Also, like and comment and subscribe on this video because it helps a lot, and it shows that you're actually watching this, and it gives us great joy. What is this? A graph? Ian, I'm a sucker for a graph.
As am I. But this is actually just going to be the four different scenarios. So we're going to say setup, and I'm going to do a nicer graphic so this does it so our viewers don't have to watch this. So I might leave it up for a minute so the viewers can be like, are we really doing this? And then there'll be a slightly less shitty graphic.
A slight cut to an actual graph that looks nice instead of your fucking chicken scratch. I love it.
This is awful. But it'll help us more so. Okay. So, Demonic Tutor versus Vampiric Tutor. Now, here's another quick, I put down these kind of notes because sometimes it can be hard to imagine, what's the scenario other than just I'm ahead behind? What deck am I running? So it's supposed to just be a very generalized list of common cards across all 5 colors. But if it helps to think with context, think about just being against a generic pod of top tier commanders, maybe a Kinnan, a Rogsai, a Blue Farm, Timna Thrasios, a Magda, just a lot of the top tier commanders that you're going to be seeing. And then if you had to pick a commander, don't pick anything specific, like Sisay that requires, specific combos. Think of,
right. Okay.
Let's just say we're a generic Kenrith list. So we've got Thassa's Oracle lines, we've got Underworld Breach, we've got Ad Naus, some infinite mana combos, basically a wide variety. It's not limited to just creatures or just storm or turbo stuff. So yeah, the point is to be thinking about these cards in a very generalized sense, but a little context helps. So between these two, Demonic Tutor and Vampiric Tutor, which one is better, in your opinion, during the setup turns, that 1 through 2?
So here is, it really depends on my opening hand. If I'm able to get a Demonic Tutor out turn 1, that's huge. Usually I don't. But Vampiric Tutor, I almost always Vampiric Tutor on turn 1. And usually just get like, whatever, a rock. But, so I think in that case, Vampiric Tutor's better. But it is really nice. I don't know. I think Vampiric Tutor's better. Because usually not everyone's trying to win all at once. So you can get that setup going. Or you can get the piece that you're missing from your hand for your next turn.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because you think, and here's another, slight caveat. Let's say in any of these situations you have the mana to cast either of them. Not both, but, let's just say you do have two mana. So you have a hand like land plus a Chrome Mox or something like that.
Okay.
Let's say here's a good one. So you have a land and with black, and then you have a Simian Spirit Guide.
Oh, okay. Perfect. So then
so you can use a only once off ramp to get the turn 1 Demonic Tutor. This one's so hard. It's like, yeah, if you can cast Demonic Tutor, of course, but you're wasting the Simian Spirit Guide. I'm going to say, so we'll do this too. This will be Ian, Trevor, Again, the audience won't have to see this garbage. And we're going to say, I'm still going to go with Vampiric Tutor, but it's so hard. That is so hard. Because if you can cast it, Demonic Tutor, but you're wasting the Simian Spirit Guide now, so...
Yeah, but like, what are you going to save this Spirit Guide for? Like...
I don't know. Maybe
it's just to,
maybe you
cheap out your commander easier, but like
maybe an earlier ad nause or something.
An earlier ad nause, yeah.
Or hidden,
I think using it on a Demonic Tutor is fine though.
Yeah, no. I don't think there's. This is a hard one. There's a reason I put this first because, I wanted to warm us up with one that we were gonna think about a little bit.
I think, okay, I'm going to agree with you. I think Vampiric Tutor is better, but because you don't need a lot of resources to cast it. You just need the swamp or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know. Yeah.
I think
it's
in a
less
majority
resources
of first turns, or and like setup turns, I think you're going to want the Vampiric Tutor early, and you're going to would maybe rather think about it that. Let's say because here's the other thing. You have both of these in your hand. So it might be better when you have more mana later to cast the Vampiric Tutor now and then cast the Demonic Tutor on a later turn when you have more mana to cast it, grab your Thassa's Oracle and have the mana to use it that turn. Just something to think about. But I'm not trying to sway you. I'm just...
No.
I'm even...
So, like, for setup, I prefer Vampiric Tutor.
At first, I thought this was going to be obvious, but even with just that, it's hard. So, okay, similar situation, but now we're in turns 3 or 4, and we're ahead. And specifically, I put down like kind of a generalized definition of ahead and behind for this context. And ahead is you have the most resources compared to your opponents. So your opponents are either, all kind of similar and you're clearly ahead, you have a little bit more mana, card advantage, whatever the case is. And then behind is the opposite. You have the least resources compared to your opponents. So
Okay.
if you're ahead, what are you hoping for?
If I'm ahead, I'm assuming I have something like a Ristic Study out, um, or a combo piece in hand. Like, in that case, I would want. Now, I'm gonna go for the Demonic Tutor for this one, I think, and that's because it goes straight to hand, and so I can do exactly what I want right then and there instead of having to wait to draw a card, even if I have, a One Ring out. I would still rather have a Demonic Tutor, so I don't have to waste the One Ring to draw a card that I just tutored for.
Yeah, you might want that for to potentially draw into interaction to protect yourself. So, yep. I was going to say same. I'm in agreement with you. Demonic Tutor, 100% for being ahead. Now, what about your behind?
Ooh. I don't know, because if I'm... Yeah, what? Go ahead.
I'm going to say Vampiric. Now, even though you would have the mana to cast the Demonic Tutor, and again, they're both in your hand, I'm likely going to go for, if I'm behind, either a card draw engine or some sort of protection or combo piece or something where I can probably more ramp because I need to get ahead, or the draw engine, and then cast the Demonic Tutor when I'm a little more stable and I can use it. If I'm already behind, I might want to leave more mana up for maybe a counter spell that I have in hand or some other sort of interaction. And I'm not looking to maybe not necessarily tap out for the Demonic Tutor, but if I'm behind, I'm probably not coming back right now this one turn, and I'd rather cast the Vampiric Tutor now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think when you're behind... Well, okay, so if both of these cards were in my hand, if the question was which one I would cast first, it would be the Vampiric Tutor. Because then I could try and set up for the next turn and cast the Demonic Tutor that turn. But
exactly.
If it's which one would I rather have at that point, I think it would be the Vampiric Tutor, because, like, just like you said, you probably don't have the resources to even try and win at that point. So you might as well just, I don't know, stall out.
Yeah. Why waste the instant to hand,
unless you're getting a counter spell.
Yes. Now that we're not talking like in on the stack, someone else is winning. We're just saying you're a little behind in the game. I think that's good reasoning. Man, so far we haven't disagreed on anything. Okay, what about if we're stalled? So this is turn 5 or 6 or so, maybe a little longer. Everyone's in a pretty even state. Maybe we all have our commanders. Maybe some people have commanders, but they're not. It's not like a Kinnan isn't out, but the Kinnan player has a Ristic Study, and he's pretty loaded on board. There's a Rogside player that looks like that maybe had a failed win attempt, but they've got cards out their ass. I don't know. I don't know. Just somewhat. Maybe there's a stacks player that's fucking everyone. Is an easy scenario to imagine. So we're turn 5 through 6 or so, maybe a little later. We're stalled out. What do you want?
I think for this scenario. Okay, going back to if they're both in my hand, which one do I play? I think is going to be the same answer for which one I would prefer to see in my hand, which is Demonic Tutor. I think being able to get an answer for the board state that you're currently in is significantly better than having the Vampiric Tutor to, like, wait. Now, you could. Now, this is also contingent on like what my board state's like. Like, if I have something to draw me a card, I might go for the Vampiric Tutor, because then I can wait for somebody's turn and then cast Vampiric, draw the card. But then again, you could just get it with Demonic Tutor. I'm convincing myself Demonic Tutor. All right.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. The point you brought up of I can find an answer for the board state now, and not necessarily to wipe it, but what is going to help me right now? When you're in a stalled out state, you don't want to be waiting a whole nother turn cycle. This is your opportunity to potentially break ahead. And if you can cast the Demonic Tutor and cast an impactful piece to move your game forward, I think that's the right answer. So, okay. We agreed on everything. And that also means that Vampiric Tutor and Demonic Tutor are essentially tied throughout all things, but that's okay. That's okay. Not everything's going to be a, clear-cut answer, and I think there's a reason why every single deck with black in it has Demonic Tutor and Vampiric Tutor.
Yeah. I mean,
and I would dare someone to come up with a reason not to run both, and that wouldn't be happy to see either of them in their opening hand or at any point in the game overall. I mean, this will probably be the longest one because how close they are in power to each other.
Yeah.
So this is a good one to start with.
I think if I saw these two cards in my opening hand, I probably would just automatically take that, because that's pretty good. That's a pretty good starting hand. Now, if I was able to cast them both.
Yes.
All right. What's the next two cards on the list, Ian?
Okay, the next two are Mystic Remora and Rhystic Study.
Okay.
So, setup.
Mystic and
Turn
Rhystic.
1, 2. Yeah, Mystic versus Rhystic. Now, this is gonna be hard because it's assuming that you can cast both. But I did say that setup is turn 1 through 2. So let's just say for this scenario, this is a turn 1 Mystic or a turn 2 Rhystic.
For this scenario, okay.
And for this one, I don't know why, but let's just pretend like you have the option for both, but you can't cast both, because everyone will be like, cast this one, and then on the next turn,
No, obviously,
this one's a little different than the last
scenario. You cast
scenario.
Mystic Remora, and then the next turn you cast Rhystic Study. Because obviously,
it's too easy. So this one, we're gonna have to modify certain of the context in certain scenarios to make it more fair. So
that's fine.
You can someone says, hey, let's just say you're mulliganing, and for some reason you're allowed to see into the future, and you can see your second 7. And one of them is a turn 1 Mystic Remora with everything else being the same, and the other one is a turn 2 Rhystic Study.
Okay. I think. Ooh, what would I rather have? I think I'd rather have the Remora. I think, because being able to drop the Remora and just having everyone either play a land and pass or feed your Remora by playing all the rocks, that's huge in the early game. A good Remora is always really good in the early game, but turn 2 Rhystic is also you're keeping that on the field for a while. But I think for the setup, I'd rather have Remora.
I'm with you. I tend to be more of an aggressive player, and I would prefer to either get ahead by everyone not doing anything on that first turn cycle, or they just cast right into it and I get to draw, a card or two for each of them. The benefit, the potential upside of that is huge. I know Ristic Study in general is the more powerful card. It sticks around longer. But if one of them's going to potentially get removed, I want the one that people can't pay for. People will kind of work around Ristic Study, but in the long term, over the course of a long game, it is the better card. But I think that explosive setup for Mystic Remora, you draw 3 cards potentially, and then turn 2 is, you're off to the races. So yeah, I think this one was kind of easy for the setup for me. So what about you are ahead? Your turn's 3 or 4, you're a little ahead already on card advantage. What do you want in this situation?
I'm already ahead on card advantage.
Yeah, you're already doing good, a little better. You just haven't hit a tutor or a combo piece, or maybe you have one of your combo pieces, but it's like a Thoracle, and you just don't have a tutor yet to get, a Tainted Pact or something.
So, the Remora is nice because you can almost guarantee that your opponents probably aren't going to pay for it. So you're guaranteeing a draw every time they play something. But the Ristic's nice because it just triggers every fucking time. And it's still, you might be banking that they're not going to pay for the one. But if you're going, this one's actually tricky. I don't know. Ian, what
You're
are your
almost
thoughts?
swaying me, but I'm gonna say Ristic, and just because in this scenario, if we're ahead, the likelihood you're right about people, they're still, if you're ahead and they're behind, they're definitely not being able to pay for Remora. But my thinking is they might not be able to pay for Ristic either. They might.
Yeah.
You might get further ahead by them just trying to work around Ristic. Maybe paying for some, letting you draw for others. That's just going to keep putting you farther and farther ahead. I think that Ristic is almost like the nail in the coffin. Yeah.
I'm gonna agree with you. I think Ristic in this scenario is the better option. You're right. If you're ahead, your opponents might not be able to pay for the Ristic anyways, or might not want to pay for the Ristic, or might just stop playing a lot of things just so you don't get the draw. So
yeah. Either way. So okay, what about you're behind? You need to catch up.
You need to catch up. Ooh.
Everyone else is ahead of you.
I feel like the Ristic Study is the one that you want to go for. Pretty much the same reasoning. Like you're just gonna be guaranteed a draw, except by whoever's like got all the fucking mana in the world. But I think it's gonna be the Ristic Study.
I think we might have our first disagreements. I'm going to say Mystic Remora.
Okay.
Just because I think if you're behind, I kind of similar to like the setup. I want to get ahead right now. And I want something that is going to really turn the tides. And I think only having to spend 1 mana, and again, almost no one pays for Mystic Remora ever.
Yeah. Who's going to pay the
maybe
4?
the Tivit player late game. If Tivit's at this table, he's probably paying for maybe. But even that hurts. That would hurt a Tivit player. But yeah, I think Mystic, but it's very close because you're right. I could, the only thing that came to my mind is you're behind. You pay a little bit more for the Ristic Study, and everyone's just like, it's an easy kind of thing. Like, let's just bully him a little bit. Let's just keep paying the 1 and not let him draw. And then we don't even have to worry about that player. So you almost get boxed out of the game potentially. But like you said, they might just keep playing into it. And sometimes the psychology, they're already not worried about you. And all of a sudden you're drawing more. I really think in either scenario, These cards are very. The first two.
This is a hard one.
And again, like I said, the other options might change. I tried to make it hard. But I also didn't want to think about the cards too much because.
Okay.
But yeah, good with our answers.
I'm good with that. I think we can have a disagreement.
Yeah.
We can agree.
So what about
disagree.
a stalled?
A stalled.
Oh yeah, but we
game.
might not do this. Yeah, stalled game, late game.
I'm gonna go with the Ristic again, just because like getting that trigger on any spell is huge, and in a stalled game, everyone's gonna be like trying to push their game plan a little bit to get out of that stalled state. And if you have the Ristic down, you're just gonna be drawing on everything that they're doing. Whereas like the Remora has the limitations that it's a non-creature spell. And it's not going to stick around.
I was thinking the same thing. In a stalled out state, you don't necessarily know how long it's going to be, and it might be easy to fall into the trap of thinking, well, man, if I get an explosive Mystic Remora, play, and I just keep it around for one cycle, it's just probably not happening in a stalled out state. It could, but I think more often than not, like you were saying, Ristic Study is going to be better. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points overall for Ristic and 3 for Mystic. So, and that's what I figured. Ristic Study. It's hard to say Mystic and Ristic, and there's a Remora and a Study, and sticks and sounds all over the place. Ristic Study is the more powerful of the two in general, so I'm not surprised that it edged it out.
It's probably the most powerful card in the format, anyways. So, it's at least one of them. I don't know if it's the most powerful. We could do a video on that.
It might be. We could. Yeah, that'd be fun.
All
Maybe
right.
we do like a bracket system, like a tournament.
Ooh, I like that.
Some sort of thing like that.
All right, look for that in the future.
Okay, so the next one is going to be Swords to Plowshares or Chain of Vapor. So a more definitive answer that's a little bit more focused on, only creatures, or a Chain of Vapor that is only bounces it to hand, but it can target any non-land permanent.
Now, I believe this is a bit contingent on the board state. Or not the board state, but like the pod. Like,
agreed. That's why I still wanted to pick something somewhat generic. The heck is this being weird for? All right, whatever. So let's see if how can we add some additional context to this? So it's going to be something where, so we said, let's say Kinnan. Okay. So a lot of creatures.
Okay.
Let's say there's a Rogsai player, and then let's say there's we almost have to, we could say Blue Farm, but I almost want to say Timna Thrasios for this, so there's a little bit more creatures, so it's not too biased, because it'll be too easy to say Chain of Vapor.
Okay, so that was Kinnan,
we can even
Rogsai, and what was the last one?
TNT.
TNT. Okay. All right, bet. Okay. Is there a Hullbreaker Horror in my deck? because that is
Ooh.
also contingent with Chain of Vapor.
Well, it's a very generalized Kenrith list, and I've seen just about everything go into Kenrith. I've seen people do Displacer Kitten combos, Breach, Adnaz, Turbo, Hermit Druid. I mean, I've seen everything, so sure. Why
Okay.
the hell not?
Okay.
Let's just say it doesn't necessarily have to be that card specifically, but there is going to be some sort of synergy with your own deck with Chain of Vapor. Which maybe sealed the the fate on this one might be too easy, but yeah, let's go into setup turns.
Okay.
This is
Setup.
in your opening hand. Let's say like this is in your opening hand. Which one would you rather see?
I would rather see the Swords to Plowshare, specifically for the Kindred.
Me too. Me too, dude. I was worried there was just going to be C's on this little board that we're drawing, and if I'm going to leave this Microsoft Paint thing up a little bit so the audience who are watching on YouTube can see this jank, but I'll have nice graphics though. So we're drawing S's and C's for S for Swords to Plowshares, and if you couldn't put 2 and 2 together, the C is for Chain of Vapor. So yeah, this one I thought you were going to say Chain of Vapor because we were kind of talking it up, but I am with you. I feel like there's more early game creature threats. The Dranith, the Kinnan player. I want it fucking gone. I don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so now let's go to ahead. You're ahead in the game.
Okay. If I'm ahead, I'm looking to win at that point. I'm trying to push for a win. I'm not worried about my opponent's board states, right? So I think I'd rather have a Chain of Vapor because it will synergize with my deck more. I could still get rid of a pesky, Dranith Magistrate or bounce. I don't know. What would you bounce in this scenario?
Is he going to curve it back to an S? No, it's a C.
No.
It's a
total C.
It's a Chain of Vapor. Yeah, no, it's a Chain of Vapor for me too. If you're ahead, you might want to just quickly bounce that stacks piece so you can go off, and you want it to be, let's just say you're ahead, but I just need to cast my commander for the finish, and there's a Dranith out, bounce it, and even though the Swords to Plowshares gets rid of it. Yeah, any scenario where I'm ahead, I want the versatility, and I'm probably going to go off and try and finish. I'm usually going to have that Chain of Vapor. I'm going to bounce whatever is disrupting me, and I'm going to go off from there. So, yeah. I think that's pretty straightforward. So what about being behind?
All right, so we're saying like this is turn 3 or 4. The Kinnan players got Kinnan out and a few dorks and rocks, and they're pushing to search for fucking basalt or something, and then Rogsai's doing Rogsai things, and has enough mana for an ad nauseum, and then the TNT player, they've got Hazel Broodmaster out, and they're just waiting for the Devoted Druid or something. Maybe not Hazel. They probably have that in hand. But, we don't know that.
Yeah, we don't know.
I think having the Chain of Vapor would be better. Because you can just... I don't know. They're almost the same. But also... Actually, I'm going to change mine to Swords to Plowshare. Because then I can get rid of a pesky thing and don't have to worry about it coming back, because there might be Underworld Breach being played or something like. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this. Swords to Plowshare. I can get rid of that Kinnan, make him cast it again the next turn.
It is a little more definitive. Yeah, you know what? I was almost thinking this was an easy Chain of Vapor, but and I still might go with that. I think the Chain of Vapor potentially getting you back ahead by bouncing something that you can get extra mana from. Or, if this was pre-ban, I would have been like, oh, you can bounce a dockside. But then if you already have a dockside, why are you losing? So maybe you're not behind in that scenario. I don't know. But what if you're behind and someone plays a Underworld Breach and you have the swords in hand? I don't know. But you don't want to just... I think the Chain of Vapor potentially having a little more versatility. Oh, man, hearing your argument made it... I think I'm just going to go with my gut and say Chain of Vapor.
Okay.
I mean,
but Chain of Vapor might be the right card for that scenario because,
but like again, said,
these are... It's a catch-all.
You can get rid of cards that are both played in all of the decks with those colors. So if we're disagreeing on it, it's not like we have these crazy differing opinions. It's just these subtle differences, and we might be imagining two different, subtly different scenarios in our own heads. And Swords to Plowshares is better in yours, and Chain of Vapor. This is just a fun little way to get people to see different opinions and discussing these, scenarios. Yeah. So, okay, let's go on to the last one, which is we're in a stalled out state.
Oh, I think this is... I was about to say, I think this one's easy, but then again, that Swords to Plowshare is pretty nice. No, I think you go with Chain of Vapor, because the catch style, just like get rid of anything, bounce in the hand, try to, get rid of that Drannith Magistrate, get rid of the Notion Thief if everyone's playing that, or the Bowmaster, so you can just draw your shit. Like, just get rid of the pesky cards that are, on the table. Try to win around them. Swords to Plowshare is good, but there's that catch-all for Chain of Vapor, which I like.
I also like and this is going to make me, I have to kind of go back and at least mention something about the last category. So I'm also going to say Chain of Vapor, specifically because if it's in a stalled out state, I might want to bounce something, but then someone continues the chain and bounces another problem thing of someone else. There's almost a little bit of politicking that could happen here. I'll bounce this if you bounce this, and multiple problem permanents could get removed all at once, potentially.
That is true.
And the reason why I'm still going to stick with Chain of Vapor while being behind because of the versatility, but it could potentially fuck you. If you cast Chain of Vapor to get rid of something and they continue it and are like, yeah, well, I'm going to bounce your thing. And yeah, you could keep going back and forth, but if you're the one who's behind, realistically, how many lands do you want to sack and how many of your permanents do you want to get bounced back to your hand?
Yeah.
Just to continue the chain. Is it
in a stalled out state? Yeah, I think a Chain of Vapor will drastically change the board. Whereas like the Swords to Plowshare will get rid of one thing. No, it could backfire on you, but I think you're right.
So Chain of Vapor got 5 and Swords to Plowshares 3. But again, so similar to the Mystic Ristic, the more powerful card, which again, I think acutely Swords to Plowshares is more powerful, obviously, if there's a creature on board, but Chain of Vapor is more versatile. Yeah. And yeah, so that got another, just the decision of one of us changing our minds on something is all it takes. So, okay. Moving on, we've got Ancient Tomb versus Badlands. And I specifically picked these two lands and this one we do have to say, let's just say this is the Kenrith deck. Just because, let's get these on the screen, even though it's not going to matter for our viewers. We're going to edit this crap out anyway. I hate how it does that. Did it add it to the deck? No, it didn't.
No, it didn't. You have to click on it.
So the reason I picked Ancient Tomb and then Badlands is because Badlands isn't necessarily the land you'd want to see in Kenrith. You'd probably want something with white or something with green or blue. So you can get maybe some dorks out. You can get, your counter spells or your mystics and ristics out and things like that. Black for the tutor. It's not like it's dead. And then red, especially without Dockside, it's really not as useful in Kenrith anymore. But I feel like these are two lands where it might be a little hard to, decide. So, okay, So let's go to the initial setup turns. Opening hand, what do you want to see? And let's just say, I'm trying to think, because let's not say it's not a one land hand. But we don't want to say you have a bunch of rocks or a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, because I think this is really contingent on what's in your hand. Like,
we need a really generic land, but
because like if I have
generic?
What's the most generic land? A forest.
Yeah, for some reason, you're running one basic forest.
Or you're running a snow-covered forest. How about that?
Yeah. Snow-covered forest. And you have no dorks, so you can't. So you're not doing that. What do you want in your... You have one of these in a snow-covered forest. So this is just a rough opening turn. Why did you keep this fucking hand is the real question.
Do I have at least some mana rocks?
You have a Soul Ring and a Mox Amber that's useless. No, you have a Mox Opal that isn't even turned on yet.
Oh my god. Okay.
So you just have a fucking nightmare of a hand right now. But you can pick one of these.
Okay, why did I keep this hand, Ian?
Let's say you had to go down to 4. Let's say you had to go down to 4.
We had to go down to 4.
That's a little more
realistic. We kept
realistic.
the hand with a snow-covered forest, a Soul Ring, and what was the fucking other card?
Let's just say it's a Chromox, but you haven't drawn in and anything to put anything under it. So you're hoping for a good draw. But what do you want? The Soul Ring makes it too easy. Although all you need to do, if you play the Ancient Tomb into the Soul Ring, you have enough for Kenrith, and all you need to do is get one white source.
One white source, and then you get Kenrith.
This is such a fucked... Why did I come... I did not think this through. I thought of the first... This was one... I'm like, I gotta do one land. This is one of the ones I added at the end, and you can tell because it's fucked. It is just... It wasn't thought out. I didn't think about the other ones too hard, and which would be better, but more of like, what's a nice even comparison? But this one's hard for all the wrong reasons, and I love it.
Okay,
you know what? I'm the risky player. The setup turn, fuck it. I'm gonna say Ancient Tomb because
you're gonna go Ancient Tomb.
Yeah, I know it's fucking stupid, but all I need is one white source, and I have Kenrith out, and I have a Soul Ring and an Ancient Tomb to start going off.
Kenrith's CMC?
He's a 5.
He's a 5? Okay.
Yeah, he's a 5 drop.
And I have a Chromox, but nothing in hand. So I'd have to wait for a fucking white card or planes. Yeah, I think... Ooh. Damn. In that scenario, I think I want to go for the Badlands, actually.
I don't blame you, because you could easily get fucked, and the likelihood you could draw into a Demonic Tutor, a Vampiric Tutor, Imperial Seal, and you're back in the game.
Yeah. Simply because, like, I have an Ancient Tomb and I have a Soul Ring. That's great. I can produce 4 mana. I can't produce any fucking colors. So I'd rather be at least able to produce black and red.
Okay. I don't blame you. I'm risking it to get the biscuit.
Risking it for the biscuit. Let's go.
All right. So now we're ahead.
Okay, we're ahead.
Stuff's going well.
Well, you go for the ancient tomb, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
that
I
just
think this one's
that just boosts you up a little bit further.
yeah. That's assuming you're not struggling for mana or anything. So, or
You
colors
have
or
you have all your
anything.
colors. You
This
you
is a
got at
generic
least
ahead scenario.
you have at least a city of ass out.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Let's say you have a city of ass, that basic forest that's for some reason in a 5-color deck. Back when you had Path to Exile in there, and you're like, well, maybe I could ramp with this, and then you took it out and you swapped it, and then you left the forest in. Um, let's just say that happened.
okay,
Yeah. So Ancient Tomb.
ancient tomb.
So now we're behind. What do you want here?
Um, behind. Okay, so behind in what way? Because am I able to produce colors? If I'm not able to produce black, I would prefer to have a badlands.
So let's just say similar scenario to the setup, only it just got carried over. We had to mulligan down to 4. And let's
Okay.
say in the head scenario, my plan of Ancient Tomb in this worked out. And we somehow got Kenrith out, and we're like, dude, fuck yeah, let's go. And we drew into a good colored thing. In this scenario, it didn't work out, and my dumb plan of keeping the Ancient Tomb fucked us. And for some reason, you're allowed a second Ancient Tomb in the deck, or you could draw into a Badlands.
Uh,
What do you want in this
Okay.
scenario?
I think I'd rather have the badlands because I'm thinking probably low on colors. I don't really mind which land I get, but like I need something with color is what I'm thinking. So
Yeah, I kind of like, if I'm behind, I want to have all my color. I'm thinking I'm behind on a lot of things.
yeah,
Maybe I draw into an Underworld Breach with the red. Maybe I get an Adnaz with the black. Maybe I can pay into, Kenrith's ability to reanimate something, or, whatever the case is. So, yeah, I'm cool with that. And then what about in a stalled out state?
for stalled out state,
Everyone's
I
doing pretty
think
good.
everyone's doing pretty good. You just need that extra oomph,
Yeah.
right? So I think you go ancient tomb.
Yeah, I think so too. So yeah, that's 5 for Ancient, 3 for Badlands. That was almost like a really too much of a sweep in the favor of Ancient Tomb. It's just so hard to turn down 2 mana. We really had to craft a weird scenario
Yeah,
in order to make it work.
that's fine.
But
It's our
that is
show. We can do whatever
totally
we want.
fine. It's our show. I like how we call it a show, because
It
then
is
we
a
can
show.
specifically say it is. I mean, it's like a podcast, but it's a show. I consider it a show. It's our show. We can do whatever the hell we want. Okay, so
All right, what's next, Ian?
we're gonna do Noxious Revival or Eternal Witness.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm like, I gotta have some sort of recursion on here. I feel like you don't see enough of either of these cards. I noticed everyone takes out Noxious Revival, and I'm like, dude, that has saved me numerous times. And then same with Eternal Witness. But hell, some decks I run both.
Yeah.
The
Oh, I know, Ian.
versatility of
I
both
know.
of them. But yeah, I know Trevor's like, well, of course you have fucking Eternal Witness. I'm like, well, I could always just tutor for Eternal Witness, flicker it, and get both of these things back. But okay, so we're talking setup turns. Obviously, this is more of you're not going to cast these in the opening turns, but what would you rather have in an opening hand? In a very generic kind of game state.
With that, depends if I have a demonic tutor in hand. Because if I have a demonic tutor in hand, and I'm able to tutor on turn 1 and then cast Noxious Revival to put the fucking tutor back on top of my library. That's huge.
Before we go off on this tangent, because I agree with you, that's going to make it too easy. You don't have a demonic tutor. Sorry.
Fair.
It's like, well,
sorry.
I'm like,
the way
well,
this is
gonna.
The way this is set up right now, I can see demonic tutor. I'm like, but if I have this card,
fucking scroll that out of the way. Okay. That's also a bunch of really good shit. Let's just pretend. Fucking.
It's fine. It's fine. We won't think about it. Okay.
It's getting removed from the deck. Okay. So set up turns. I think I would, as much, I mean, I love Eternal Witness. I actually like it more than Noxious Revival, but even for that reason you said, if we're early game, I probably don't have enough mana or engines to be flickering or, doing anything crazy with Eternal Witness. So I'm going to say Noxious Revival all the way.
Yeah, I think Noxious Revival, like, even if there's so many scenarios I can think of where I'd be like, yeah, I'll just pay 2 life and put the card that I just used back onto my fucking library. That sounds awesome. The Remora that I just sacrificed, yeah, I'll Noxious Revival it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
Actually, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that one's kind of a slam dunk case.
Yeah. Ahead. So I think we're going to agree on this one because I know you. But I think being able to get, a tutor or a ramp piece or whatever out of your graveyard into your hand and then being able to play it that turn is huge, especially when you're ahead. So I think we're going Eternal Witness.
Yeah. I'm with you. It's just too versatile, and if you're already in a place where you're ahead, you have a little extra mana, you have some engines on board, even just having it out, even if I didn't have a guaranteed way of getting it back out, it's another body on the board, and the likelihood, if I usually build my decks in a way where I can either tutor for Eternal Witness or and get it right out to the battlefield or somehow flicker it. So yeah. We agree there. So what about being behind?
I'm thinking if you're behind, Noxious Revival is kind of it's kind of a piece of interaction that you can use to save yourself if you need to.
Yep, if someone's doing something weird or trying to recur something from their graveyard, or they just did a worldly tutor and you saw them put a Thoracle on, they revealed and put the Thoracle on top, but they don't, they don't have a draw engine. I know I'm kind of crafting a weird scenario, but the interaction factor in Noxious Revival, I agree. Plus, if you're behind, it's kind of similar with the Vampiric Tutor, where if you're behind, do you want to cast the thing, that's going to take more of your resources? Are you really going to, be able to go off and win right now? I'd say probably not.
Yeah,
I think
and
we
with
agree.
the Noxious
Revival.
The Noxious Revival, you can at least wait a turn cycle and like cast it on your opponent's turn, so you can be like, okay, no one did anything, I'll Noxious Revival, get this thing I need back on top of my library, we're good to go. Which you can hold up for like a counter spell if you have that in hand or something. So yeah, Noxious Revival for sure. Now a stalled out state.
Just out of principle, there's no way I'm going to let Eternal Witness only get 2 votes. But I understand why one would pick either. But yeah, I'm thinking this is my chance to not only get something back, but somehow utilize Eternal Witness to push me forward. And Noxious Revival is just kind of that quick little oomph that I might need. But Eternal Witness, it's like this might be the the engine that gets me going forward.
Okay. I feel you. And I'm gonna agree with you because Eternal Witness is like, yeah, it's gonna get you the thing that you need right away. You don't have to wait an extra turn cycle where somebody else is gonna try and push a win or, drastically change the board state. You can just get the thing you need back in your hand, cast it, you're good to go. We agreed on every single one of this one.
Yeah. I think this was the same as the Demonic versus Vampiric Tutor. These were very similar.
Yeah.
They're both so good. I run them both. And
yeah,
I just can't believe I just don't see it. Dude, the saddest thing about Eternal Witness is that it's a human. So otherwise it would be jammed into Kinnan. It would be like not even a question. I would never cut it unless they came out with a 2-mana thing that did the same thing. Okay.
I don't see him doing that.
So that's 4 points for both. So similar to the Vampiric and Demonic Tutor, they tied out. The next one, Draneth Magistrate or Grand Abolisher.
I like this. This is a good one.
Because these are a little bit different in the sense that they don't do the exact same thing. A lot of the other things are, oh, do you want this quicker, tutor or the more powerful tutor or the more versatile removal or the more powerful removal? These two are very different things. So this might be too easy in the scenario, but let's see what happens. So we're in the setup turns.
Okay.
And let's just say, I'm trying to think. Yeah, no, this is not a case where you have both of them in your hand. This is
one or the other.
You had to go down to, you have a really good hand. You had to go down to 6. You have to ship one of these.
Do I have 2 white sources?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You can cast.
But can I cast it turn 1 or turn 2 is what I'm going to ask.
Let's say there's no way of getting 2 white sources on the first turn. Let's say you can't cast either of these turn 1. You're planning on doing like a turn 1 Soul Ring or something, and then turn 2 you get another land that also has white.
Okay.
And then you have the 2 lands, Soul Ring, and one of these.
I think this one's pretty easy. I think you go for the Draneth Magistrate because you can shut out people from even playing the game if you can take out their commander.
Yeah, I agree. Either way, because people could make the argument, well, what if someone just removes your Draneth and then goes on? It's like, then they wasted a removal spell that's not going to kill my commander or something else. I've seen people make the argument of Draneth not pushing the game plan forward while Grand Abolisher, is protection. But I think it's pushing you ahead by keeping everyone behind. So early Draneth Magistrate, 100%.
100%.
So now you're ahead. So let's say you didn't have either of these in your opening hand, and it's turn 3 or 4, you're doing really well. What do you want to top deck? I think this one's also kind of the easy scenario.
I'm thinking. So the thing is, if I'm ahead, that's not necessarily saying. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. But it's not necessarily saying that my opponents don't have their commanders out already. So the Draneth Magistrate might not do as much as I want it to. Because, Draneth Magistrate is really good early game. Because you can just block your opponents out.
Will this change the scenario? So let's just say Kinnan just got removed, last turn. So he is not out, and he might want to cast him again. But he's a little behind, and he can cast him, so you're like, okay, Kinnan, next time it gets around to him, he's going to want to cast Kinnan. Rog, Sai, let's just say Rograk's on the board. You don't really care that much. I mean, so he's already out. And then let's just say Blue Farm has like Timna out.
Okay.
So just to push it a little bit more, make it a little bit more difficult. I still think I'm ahead. I want the Grand Abolisher.
Yeah, I think being able to shut your opponents out from casting spells in your turn is way more significant when you're ahead than making sure they don't cast their commanders.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're in agreement there. What about you're behind? And let's say it's a similar situation. You're behind. Kinnan just got removed, so there's still like there's one sort of major commander that you don't want to hit the battlefield, like maybe or the Tivit just got removed or whatever.
Okay.
And you're like, ooh, maybe this is a good time to jam the Drannith Magistrate. But you are behind. Neither of these really push you forward.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to see either if I'm behind.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh shit. This is not the top deck I wanted.
Exactly. I mean,
if you had to pick,
I'd rather have the Grand Abolisher just to be like, I'm probably because like, yeah, I might be able to shut the Tivit player out or whatever. But if they've already casted Tivit, they have a few tokens sitting around. They can just crack a clue token and draw a card and draw into whatever they need to get rid of the Drannith Magistrate. So, yeah, I'm going.
Okay, what about... this one's hard for me. Because I'm thinking, if I'm already behind, Drannith Magistrate might at least stall everyone long enough. But Grand Abolisher is... no one's messing with you on your own turn. At least... But if I'm behind... I don't know. At least I can cast a Tutor on my own turn, and no one will mess with it. So I can hopefully get back into the game. But maybe stalling everyone else out. Maybe I shut Rograk, Rogsai off from Breach stuff because of Drannith Magistrate. Maybe same with Blue Farm. But someone could cast an Ad Naus and just say, okay, well, I play this, and then Chain of Vapor your thing, or Swords to Plowshares it, and I'm going to go off and win anyways. So either way, I think I'm going to say Drannith just because I'm thinking maybe I can slow everyone else down enough. But again, neither of these are a great option for top decking, so it could go either way.
Yeah.
I think Drannith, but I see your point too. So, okay, what about stalled? The game's already stalled. Let's say it's a pretty busy board, but card advantage is what's lacking. Again, it's just an easy scenario to say the Kinnan just got removed, just because I feel like in too many scenarios,
so
if we say no one's commander's out, it's like, fuck it, I'll play the Drannith. And then if everyone's commander's out, it's like, well, that's not as powerful.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I think part of me wants to be the dick that's just like, oh, the game's stalled out. Let me just continue to stall out the game by playing a Drannith Magistrate. But I don't think that's the right choice. I think that would just be funny.
Yeah, that is such a Trevor play. You are the type of person to do that.
I know. I'm sorry.
We're just going to put Drannith on here. I'm just going to force you to pick Drannith. No, I'm just kidding.
But no, but
because that is what you would do.
Yeah, it is what I would do. It's not the
And
right choice
everyone
to
would
do.
groan. Everyone would groan. Dude, I played a game one time where there were 3 Draneth magistrates out. And it was like, no one's doing anything. No one is doing fucking anything. It was pretty terrible. Didn't win that game. One of the... I mean, yeah, I think actually we were playing with Mark, which we should get our buddy Mark on this podcast.
Yeah, you'd love it.
But yeah, and the fans would love it. The audience would love Mark. Yeah, he ended up winning that game. He did some weird thing with, he was playing Rocco, but he's like, well, I can't tutor for any of my fucking combos because of there's 3 Dranists out. And then I think he was the 3rd player to play it. I think he's like, well, might as well play fucking Dranith. And we're like, why? But it didn't even matter at that point. But yeah, in a stalled out state, I'm probably doing Grand Abolisher just so I can hopefully be protected from breaking out. But if you think about it, the Dranith, I don't know, maybe that's a better move. Then it's not affecting you. It's affecting everyone else, and you can break out of the stalled state just by everyone else not being able to do anything.
Yeah. And having the...
it's hard.
Like, I'm also thinking, like, you have the potential to draw into, like, a Swords to Plowshare or some sort of removal. You could be able to just get rid of somebody's commander real quick and slap down a Dranith Magistrate.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, like, there's that potential. But I do like Grand Abolisher. I'm like so 50-50 on this. Like,
I think I'm tempted to just twist your arm into Dranith Magistrate because
that's what I would do.
What you would do.
If they were both in my hand, I would play Dranith Magistrate because that's what I would fucking do. So I'm gonna go with Dranith.
It's just what you do. I think that's what you do. So I think we both agreed on the setup and being ahead. We flip-flopped for being behind versus stalled.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But yeah, each got 4 points.
Nice.
So another tie, which is good. I wanted these to be ties. I didn't want it to be a slam dunk in either direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so it's good that we're having different opinions on cards, and like just shows, you know, we've got 2 completely different play styles.
Exactly. And we're giving good arguments for why each one is viable. Okay. Gamble or Mystical Tutor?
Oh. Okay.
And I'll try and craft. Well, I guess.
You know, how long have we been going
for? We've been going for about an hour.
An hour? Okay. Let's do like.
We can break this into 2 parts.
Yeah.
Because this is actually, we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This could be the last one because this would be 7. And then I've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, we can always do this. Let's do a couple more, and I can always come up a bunch of new scenarios. So yeah, let's just do a couple more, and yeah, because I think there's 2 more we should do.
Okay, let's do those 2 after this.
Yeah, and I think we can go pretty quick too. So, Gamble. So that's you get it right now for only 1 mana, but you might not keep it. And Mystical Tutor, you get the thing, but it is way more specific.
Oh, now, Ian, you know what you should have done?
What?
You should have done Gamble and Entomb, just for the meme.
Oh, Gamble and Entomb. Yeah, you know what? But then it would be like, what do I want to do? You want to get something in the graveyard. Well, we all know what we'd pick there.
Yeah.
That would be funny,
This is
though.
better. This is
Gamble
better.
is a sorcery, speed, and tomb, and you don't get to pick what you want to go. Uh, so let's craft a scenario. I almost wanted to say you have Thassa's Oracle in your hand, but then it's like, do you risk the gamble now? Is that a good scenario, or is that leaning
That's
it
too easy. That's way too easy. If you got a fucking Thoracle in hand,
Yeah, why risk it?
why risk it?
But you could but you could play the gamble now and then mystical tutor for a force of will or something. Okay, this is a scenario where you have both in hand. You have both in. Okay, let's just say you don't have the Thoracle.
Okay.
During your setup turns, you just have a nice. Okay, I've got like a nice variety of stuff in hand. What do you cast? Yeah, you got 2 tutors.
Setup. I go with gamble because you have a less likely chance of throwing away the thing that you tutored for.
Yep.
Yep.
And coming back from it.
Yeah, I always think that playing gamble as soon as possible is better because you have more. You have a less odds of losing it.
100%. And even let's say you have better odds of coming back. So even if you tutor for a good thing and you discard the other thing that you didn't want, well, you've got so much stuff in hand. And again, you should only be gambling in those scenarios. But yeah, I'm with you.
Well, everybody's gambled with a fucking 2 cards in hand, which is like, I just hope I get the thing that I tutored for.
Like, come on. That's a true gamble.
Oh, yeah.
We've all been there, and it is fun. It is very fun. I mean,
I think that's why everybody plays ad nauseum, because I always joke that it's blackjack, but it's just blackjack. It's just
ad nauseum is, yeah.
Yeah. It's just blackjack in the middle of a Magic game.
Only it's CMC and it's your life total.
Yeah.
And you die if you lose. It's a very high stakes game of blackjack.
Huge high stakes.
So what about if you're ahead?
If you're ahead?
So let's say we're doing good. We're ahead of our opponents and, maybe thinking about finishing up, cleaning house. We could say, let's do a mystical tutor and for like a protective piece, like a grand abolisher for next turn, and I'll try and go off next turn, or am I going off now? Let's just say, okay, here's the situation. You're ahead, you've got a shitload of mana, you've got both of these tutors in your hand, you don't have a way of drawing at instant speed, but you do, this is a scenario where you do have the Thoracle in hand, and you're like, I either gamble and try and win right now, or maybe I mystical tutor for and go off next turn.
So, are we talking about the same board, like the same pod as we've been talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
there's like a Kinnan, Broadside, Blue Farm, or a TNT, just kind of.
If I have a Thoracle in hand, I think I want to go for the Thoracle. So I'd probably gamble.
Yeah, it's hard. It's like if I'm definitely that greedy player where I'll steal a win like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That maybe the right move. Maybe we should learn our lesson and the right move is to take, wait another turn. But I'm like, if you're already ahead, let's say you don't have a full grip of 7. So the odds of you losing it are a little higher. But let's say you have 5 cards in hand. So if you have 5 cards.
Am I playing Kenrith?
Yeah, you're playing Kenrith.
Oh, gamble for sure. You can just bring back the Thoracle.
With Kenrith's ability. Yeah, you're right. I was going to try and make it a little, but what if you tutor for the demonic consultation, you just toss that.
Then you have a mystical tutor in hand. Well, I guess it's either or. Then you.
I did say you have both in this hand, but yeah, it's easier if it's just either or. You don't have both. Which one would you rather do if you had to pick?
Do I have a counterspell in hand?
I don't know.
Because if I have a counterspell in hand, I will.
Do you want to risk it for the biscuit, or should you? I think the smart move is to actually. Well, I don't know, but then you maybe let people get ahead. Then, and you're in that behind. They're in that behind state, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, I'll just play it safe," and then someone slams something devastating. If I can win now. Yeah, let's say you have a counterspell in hand, but it's like a Flusterstorm or something. It's not great. Flusterstorm is great, but it's not some guaranteed thing.
Yeah. I think if I have a counterspell in hand, I would go for the Mystical Tutor because I can wait until it's I can just wait a turn cycle, cast it on the end step, and then draw into a win. And then I can make sure that the Rogue Side player doesn't go off with my Flusterstorm. But if I don't, I think I go for Gamble. I think this is a 50-50 for me. I can't actually decide. I think it's either or.
You know what? I'm going to say Gamble just because I was originally thinking about saying Mystical Tutor, but my mind goes to the place of am I just throwing away a win here? Am I just throwing away the win? Yeah, if I and let's go back to the math. So let's say you have 5 cards in hand.
Okay.
And if you were to gamble, you'd go down 20%. To 4 and you'd get the card. Yeah, but you have a 20%, actually a 40% chance of getting rid of one of your combo pieces, which is the Thoracle and the Demonic Consultation, and then another 20% for getting rid of the counterspell that you have. You have the Flusterstorm, and then let's just say you have a land and just 2 lands.
So 60% chance to win is what you're saying, which is more than 50. And because if this was Pokemon, Ian, I wouldn't play it. But this isn't Pokemon, so I would fucking do it. I would gamble. You've convinced me.
Let's change it to gamble. I see why you're 50-50. Yeah, I just think that if you have the counterspell, because 20% chance that you lose your counterspell for your protection, but you can still go off. Another, 40% chance that you discard one of those lands. So it's really 60%, 40% chance you are golden, 40% chance that you're fucked, and there's a 20% hey, it's not ideal discarding the counterspell, but at least you're in you still have your combo. So gamble all the way. All right. Yeah. What about if you're behind?
If you're behind, I think this is where you want Mystical Tutor. Because the gamble is going to fuck you if you get rid of the thing you... imagine tutoring for a One Ring or an Ad Nauseam, and then you throw away the One Ring or the Ad Nauseam. You're like, oh, there goes my entire game. So I'd rather get the Mystical Tutor.
You're right. But you brought up a good point of gambling, being able to get the more versatile thing, if you're behind, that could the One Ring.
That's true.
Really, but let's say similar situation only, but you're behind. You only have 4 cards in hand. So it's, 40% chance. And let's just, let's not craft it too much.
No, let's give it the same fucking percentage. You have 5 cards in hand. So when you cast Gamble, you have a 20% chance of getting rid of this spell in your hand. And let's say you also have a counter spell. Let's say you kept that Flusterstorm. So you have a 20% chance of getting rid of this spell that you tutored for, and a 20% chance of getting rid of your Flusterstorm. That's still a 60% chance that you don't get rid of anything that you care about. So
Then I immediately switched to gamble because I'm like, fuck it, the odds are in my favor. I'm already behind. I might as well go for broke.
That is true. I would prefer the protected thing with Mystical Tutor, just because
It's probably the better, but I'm gonna change mine to gamble then.
All right. I mean,
if you're behind, fuck it. This is probably the wrong choice. Probably the wrong choice.
It's Mystical Tutor for me. I'm keeping it the way it is.
People are gonna be like, dude, why are you doing this? Okay. Stalled out state. This one I think is the only time where I don't want to set myself, if I'm stalled out, I don't know if I'm going to be able to gamble for the thing that's going to totally change things. And I might want to pick the safer route.
I think you're right. I think you go Mystical Tutor.
And you can also, if you're in a stalled out state, you can wait till the end step. That is something we didn't really discuss, is you can actually wait and hold it up.
Yeah.
You don't have to Mystical Tutor right now. So if you're behind, you could wait until the end step. But I'm still sticking with Flusterstorm. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think Mystical Tutor in the stalled out state is probably the choice. So we've got 3 for Mystical and 5 for Gamble. It should not have swayed in Gamble's favor too much.
No, Ian,
but it just shows you what the kind of players we are.
Mystical Tutor's just
dude.
shit.
I actually, it's not shit, but it's not as. I would rather have a worldly tutor.
It's not.
I almost
shit.
did that. I
joking.
almost said mystical. No. Of course, it's not shit. I know.
I'm just being facetious.
I know. You don't think that. I did take it out of. I had a Bruce Thrasios deck, and I actually took it out of it because I'm like, I wanted more creature tutors. I just had better things I could be doing. I just noticed that I every time I had it in hand, I never wanted it. And I've seen other lists that didn't have it either. But unfortunately, Bruce Thrasios is kind of in a bad position. This is what I always say about it. If you're not in a mid-range meta, it is the best mid-range deck. But if you are in a mid-range meta, it is the worst mid-range deck.
Yeah.
And losing Dockside really, really hurt it. But
what's the next one
for another day. We've got Cyclonic Rift versus Toxic Deluge.
Ooh. No, that's good.
I know, these are fucking good. It's funny. Trevor texted me like a couple hours before this, and he's like, "Hey, we should record tonight, and we have no idea what the episode is going to be. Just surprise me with one of your wacky ideas."
Yeah,
like, all right.
Ian's got like a list of episodes.
You piece of shit.
So I was just like, just pick any of them, and we'll fucking do it. Just don't tell me. It'll be fun.
It worked out.
I like this.
So, setup turns. I think this one's kind of easy. I think this one's too easy, but I'm going to just put my C for Cyclonic Rift right there. I was going to pop a nice C right next to my initials.
I don't know. Having that Toxic Deluge is nice because you can clear more stuff off the board for only like 3 mana. So like if somebody drops a Dranith Magistrate, you can easily get rid of that. I know the Cyclonic Rift is can bounce it really
You bounce
nicely.
it.
Yeah, I know it's targeted removal and shit, but like then Toxic Deluge, you're getting rid of everyone's shit. If you pay enough life. So I think you go Toxic Deluge.
Really? Okay. That, and again, that's a very Trevor move. Just like the Draneth in a stalled game to just fuck everyone worse. A Toxic Deluge early game just to wipe out everyone's setup. Like, yep, this is going to be a long night. Oh, great. And that also goes to show that you are. Am I the asshole if I cast Toxic Deluge in the first couple? Yes.
No, you just paint yourself in a good light.
But is being the asshole? But is being the asshole the way to win? I say yes. I do see. You can also tell that you're a Tivit player because Tivit's like, I'll just get rid of everything else. I'll slam my Tivit. Yeah, I see why you picked that.
Yeah.
So what about you're ahead? You've got your game plan going. Which one of these do you want to top deck? Let's say you do have 7 mana, but that is tapping out. You're fully tapping out.
Okay.
You're ahead, but this is like, turn 4. You've had a couple, like an Ancient Tomb and a City of Brass. So you're down to like, 28 life. Nothing crazy. But you don't want to go too crazy on the life or anything. But usually you don't have to. So it might be irrelevant. But yeah, you're doing good. You're planning on winning in the next turn or so.
Tapped out, which means I can't go for a win right then. Like, I would go for Cyclonic Rift.
You're not tapped out, but if you were to cast Cyclonic Rift,
if I was to overload it,
you have 7 mana,
which means I wouldn't.
Tapped out.
I wouldn't be able to push a win, which means my opponents then get a turn cycle to at least try and set up their boards again, which makes overloading a Cyclonic Rift not as beneficial for me. So I think once again you go Toxic Deluge to just. I mean, it's really nice to get rid of everyone's mana rocks and whatever, but like you can just get rid of all their creatures, and that's a good chunk of stuff that you don't have to deal with anymore.
I think I agree with you. I was almost gonna say like, oh, if I'm ahead. But then why? Yeah, if you're ahead, why would you want to hold up 7 mana and do it on like the end step or something? Because you don't have to do it on your turn. But then, are you really just gonna wait until someone does something and waste a whole turn just to Cyclonic Rift everyone?
Yeah.
Then you might be in a really good state. But then, what if someone didn't have a counterspell and now they drew into it? Now they play Heuristic Study and oh shit, should I Cyclonic Rift? In response to it, well, then that doesn't get bounced. Do I wait and then they draw and then they get a counter? Yeah, I think you're right. Toxic Deluge right now. Keep yourself ahead.
Yeah.
Maybe go for the win. Maybe get rid of the stacks pieces out. Even if you can't win, I still think it's probably the better choice. Force everyone else to rebuild while you stay ahead. So
now behind is a different story, and this is going to be another Trevor play. I would totally tap myself out to overload a Cyclonic Rift if I was behind.
Oh yeah, I 100%. And I think you wait until the end of turn right before yours, unless there's like a really good opportunistic moment, like someone plays something, even if it's not the end of their turn, and it's like, let's say you're going, second in the 4th place, is going right now. You want to maybe wait until the first player's end of turn, but who cares? Someone's playing something bad. Let's bounce it all. I think Cyclonic Rift is easily.
Yeah.
And you get to hold up your mana that whole time. Easily the choice there.
So if you do have a counterspell.
So what about stalled?
A stalled state. Do I have 7 mana as well? Like if I overload a Cyclonic Rift? Okay.
Let's just say, you have exactly 7 mana. Because then it makes it, if you have more, it's just too powerful. And then If you don't have it, then it's too easy the other way. So
I think in this
this
scenario,
really pushes you ahead. If you overload the Cyclonic Rift in this scenario,
Yeah.
that could totally change the game. But you're tapping out. Whereas, dude, for 3 mana, you might be able to do the same thing. Totally fuck everyone. They can rebuild more easily after that, but that might be all that you need. I know this one's pretty board dependent, but let's say just a nice variety. There's creatures, but there's also plenty of mana rocks.
There's a one ring.
There's a one ring. An heuristic or something. So it's pretty solid, but everyone has shit like that. But see, in that scenario, let's just say the only two other than mana rocks are, there's a one ring that's early. So it only has it's only drawing two cards. It has 2 counters on it.
Okay.
And then there's a heuristic. So there's nothing crazy, but then there's a lot of creatures. So is it worth doing the Toxic Deluge to get rid of more of the creatures? Let's say there's a Kinnan and he's got I'm trying to think of something that's not too crazy. A Nezahal or something. I don't know.
Ian, you've convinced me. Simply, you just could have stopped it. There's a Tivit or a Kinnan. Just kill the Kinnan. Don't put it back in their hand. They'll just cast it immediately.
You have such a bias towards hating on Kinnan. I understand.
It's because I play against you all the time, and I've noticed, and I know it's just okay, you have an issue with.
If you let him,
if you have an issue with Kinnan, just kill it. It's fine.
Just keep. I'm
going Toxic Deluge. If there's a Kinnan, you kill the Kinnan because then they have to pay more for it instead of being able to cast it for 2.
And you'd kill their creatures too if they have the.
Oh yeah, if they had the Nezahal out, I would totally pay enough life to kill that and then wipe the whole board.
I think because it's either Toxic Deluge now, and I can potentially still have mana to do other things, or tap out on the end of turn, and next turn go crazy. But I don't have the protection. That's really hard. I still think in the stalled out state, even if I get to a scenario where I don't end up wanting to untap it, I could still target the most problematic permanent on the board. But the Toxic Deluge, that can easily change the tide of the game. I think it's Cyclonic though. I can't get it out of my head of the potential upside. But no, your argument for Toxic Deluge, I'd never call you crazy for picking either of these in any of the scenarios, but your argument for why it's good in a stalled out state, sometimes you don't need the big tapped out overloaded Cyclonic Rift. You just need something to turn the tide, and killing everyone's creatures except for maybe a few key pieces of yours might really be all that you need. So that's a tie, right? That's you can tell who favors Toxic Deluge and who favors Cyclonic Rift, but I'll put it this way.
Yeah, it's a tie.
With the exception of
who's the Tivit player.
A couple decks. Yeah, Tivit should be playing both of these.
Oh, my Tivit list does.
Almost any deck that isn't I probably wouldn't play Toxic Deluge and Rogsai, because you just want stuff to push your game plan forward, and Cyclonic Rift is just better. I've seen lists that don't even run it. It's fuck it, I go faster. But
I don't know if I have Rogsai in my list. Hold up. Not Rogsai. I don't know if I have Toxic Deluge in my Rogsai list. So let me... Gotta go fast. No, I don't.
Do you have Cyclonic Rift?
I don't. No, I don't. Actually.
See, I don't blame you. Rogsai is about going fast.
You know what I have instead? an alchemist retrieval because it can
Oh yeah,
bounce my necropotence back to my hand, and then I can win with Underworld Breach.
yeah. I don't blame you for not running either. I might not.
Or Necrodominance.
I kind of I used to see, uh, what is it? Cyclonic Rift. I used to kind of just jam that in any deck with blue. You don't see it as much. I think it's like, unless you have a bunch of other board wipes, it's just too powerful to not have at least one option like that. But
Yeah.
let's go to our final one, and this is a really good one to end on. Force of Will or Fierce Guardianship, and you do have your commander out.
Ooh. Oh, Fierce Guardianship's only non-creature spells, right?
Yeah, but that's enchantments, artifacts. I mean, basically everything.
But
except
not
for
everything,
creatures.
except for creatures. So
Yeah. Force of Will is just that.
Okay.
Now, okay, well, I will say this. For the setup, we're going to say that it's an opening hand situation. You don't have your commander out yet.
Okay.
Because it's just, so let's just start with that. Let's say we're on our opening hand. Which one of these do we want? And we had to go down to 6, and I don't know why you're still discarding one of these. I'd probably keep them both and get rid of something else, but let's just say you just have to.
Yeah, why would you get rid of either of those? So I think this one's pretty easy. You go Force of Will just so you can make sure you can counter anything, and then you don't have to worry about
right out the gate.
Yeah, right off the bat, you just get rid of your Mystic Remora and fucking counter somebody's shit. You don't even need to take a turn to do that.
You're right. And this is me being the Kinnan player, being like, oh yeah, I'll have Kinnan out so early anyway, so I would rather see the Fierce Guardianship in my hand.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're 100% right. I can't let my bias as being a Kinnan player. It's Force of Will. So you're ahead. You've already got your commander out. And let's just say you're close to winning. You don't have the win in hand, but you've got like a tutor and one of your combo pieces. Which one of these do you want to top deck?
Fierce Guardianship.
Yeah, me too.
It's
because you're going to protect yourself for the win.
Yeah, and it takes less
care about the.
It takes less resources. Because
yep,
you don't want to be discarding a card that you can potentially use to, it could be a counter spell, it could be a Chain of Vapor, it might be a Mystic Remora. Who knows? You might have kept that throughout the whole game. But
maybe. So what about if you're behind? But let's just say, and again in this scenario, let's say you don't have much else in terms of resources, but you do have your commander out.
Okay, so I do have
other
my
players
commander.
Are doing pretty well.
The question is, do I want to be able to counter anything but discard or get rid of a card?
And you're behind. Yeah, let's just say we're down on resources too.
I think this is Fierce Guardianship as well. Because you don't want to be using your resources.
Yeah, I don't. This one's hard because if I'm ahead, I'm thinking about winning, so it was easy to pick Fierce. But if I'm behind, I'm scared of losing, and I think having the blanket all-encompassing Force of Will, but it does put you further behind. That's hard. That is really hard.
I know. like I could see you an argument for force of will in this scenario, but it's also
I think you're right though. I mean, because what I could see a creature only combo getting by you, but if you're behind and everyone else is doing better, someone will likely have a way to stop it. I mean, you don't want to bank on those things. I don't know if I mentioned that this episode, but in previous episodes, I do bring up, do not bank on your opponents doing a certain thing, or, oh, they'll probably play this and I'll do this. No, you can't guarantee. You can think of scenarios, but you don't want to bank on that. And even though I'm just saying that, I still think the likelihood of someone being able to at least stop it or remove it, and then if they try and protect their own win, at least you have the Fierce Guardianship to stop the additional clapback of protective spells. Oh yeah, I think you're right. The force of will, if you're already behind, putting you farther back. I think Fierce Guardianship, if you have your commander out, is probably the better option. So what about a stalled state?
This one I think
you've got your commander.
Okay. You got your commander, but I do want that catch-all. In a stalled state, I'm assuming I'm not really down on resources as much, so I'm willing to get rid of something. So I think force of will.
Yeah. I'm with you. Yep. Well said.
Ah, we agreed on all
a nice tie.
Nice.
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't easy, but I think through discussing it, the answer is kind of clear if you think about it. Now, again, I could see arguments for either in any scenario. It's hard to pick Fierce Guardianship for the setup. But again, I could see a Rogsai player being like, dude, fuck it. I play my Rogsai and I immediately have my Fierce Guardianship on and I don't have to go down a card. So, but I think that's a good one to end it on.
Oh, yeah.
How many did we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we can do 9 or so next time.
Yeah.
Unless you want to end on 10.
No, 9's a good number.
9's a good number. Let's make it, because it feels better to have 10, but then that way our audience will be more uncomfortable. I like that.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with
this long. They're already uncomfortable.
9's a square number. It's a good number.
It's a good number. All right.
Okay.
Well, if you made it this long, I hope you learned a lot. Even just through talking with you, I switched my answers multiple times, but I always felt pretty good about it in the end. And I feel like either way, I have a new perspective on, and thought process on, okay, if I'm in this situation, what do I want to be doing? And yeah, we'll definitely do this again. I had 4 or 5 more options of cards to go up against each other. So we'll definitely do another episode of this.
Hell yeah. Yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, leave a comment saying you enjoyed this episode, and we'll do more. And if you didn't like the episode,
let us know.
Let us know, and we'll call you an asshole.
Yeah, we'll probably be nice.
We'll be nice about it.
Pretty nice.
But behind the scenes.
Be nice, but we'll imply. We'll imply that you're an asshole.
Yeah.
And suggest any cards that we should compare in these scenarios. Let us know if we did anything wrong, and I'm sure Infinity Rift will have some some comments about where maybe things we got wrong. I hope he does.
I hope he does too. All right. Well, Ian, it was a pleasure doing this with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, we're signing off. As always, we will see you all in the darkest, deepest pits of hell.
Bye.
Where we belong and not you.